In the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war. The line is whispered across a million worlds, half truth, half prayer. The imperium of man stretches across a million planets, yet every inch of it burns. It is an empire built not upon peace or prosperity, but upon sacrifice, oceans of it. Its soldiers are not heroes in shining armor. They are flesh and faith, thrown endlessly against the darkness. Among these soldiers, none are more feared or more pitied than the Death Korps of Krieg. They are the men and women born on a world that destroyed itself. They are the children of ash and penance, raised to believe that death is not the end, but the only redemption. To understand them is to peer into the heart of the Imperium itself, a place where hope is a heresy and duty is eternal, long before its name became a curse. Krieg was a thriving hive world near the galactic center. Its cities rose like metal mountains. Its forges burned day and night to feed the Imperium's endless hunger. Billions toiled beneath the banners of the Emperor, loyal and industrious. But prosperity breeds pride, and pride in the Imperium is always the first sin. On the 433rd year of the 40th millennium, Krieg's ruling council, the planetary governing body, declared independence. They denounced the Adeptus Terra and raised their own armies under the red flag of rebellion. The man who led them, Colonel Gerton's commander and rival, known only as the Governor of Krieg, believed the Emperor was a distant myth, unworthy of worship. When the edict reached Terra, the response was swift and terrible. Exterminatus was considered, but instead, the Imperium allowed the planet to destroy itself. Not all of Krieg betrayed the Emperor. A single regiment, under Colonel Gerton, swore to purge the heresy even if it meant annihilation. When loyalist forces were surrounded, Gerton gave the order that would define his world forever. Better the world burn clean than live in treachery. Krieg's skies turned white. Thousands of atomic warheads fell upon the planet, vaporizing entire continents. Cities became glass, oceans boiled into clouds of poison, and sunlight was choked by dust for centuries. The Loyalists retreated into subterranean bunkers, sealing themselves away as the world above died. For 500 years, Krieg was silent. When the storms cleared, what remained of Krieg was unrecognizable. The air was toxic, the soil black, the population reduced to scattered enclaves, living in irradiated ruin. Yet those who survived, descendants of Gerton's loyalists, refused to surrender. Generations were born and died underground. Children learned to handle rifles before they learned to write. Religion and survival fused into a single creed, atonement through service. Every breath, every bullet fired in the Emperor's name was an act of repentance for the sin of rebellion. Over centuries, their language, culture, and even biology began to change. Exposure to radiation made them pale and gaunt. Their voices grew soft and emotionless, like ghosts in respirators. The people of Krieg no longer spoke of joy or hope. They spoke only of duty. To die for the Emperor was not tragedy, it was honor. When the Imperium finally returned, they expected to find a dead world. Instead, they found an army waiting. Billions of soldiers marched from the catacombs in perfect formation. Each carried the skull insignia of the Death Korps, not a title given by the Imperium, but one they had given themselves. The surviving Lord Commissars and Administratum observers were stunned. Krieg had rebuilt itself without aid, producing vast numbers of soldiers and weapons in underground forges. They offered their service to the Imperium freely, asking only for the right to die in its name. To meet the demand for endless war, Krieg turned to genetic replication, a tightly controlled program of cloning and accelerated birth cycles. Every man and woman was property of the state, bred for war from conception. There were no families, no childhoods, only ranks, training halls, and trenches. A child of Krieg learned one prayer: we die for the Emperor. That is enough. The Death Korps specialize in siege warfare, the most brutal, grinding form of combat known to mankind. They do not maneuver. They do not retreat. They dig, endure, and die. A battlefield of Krieg is a wasteland of mud, wire, and artillery. Their commanders measure success not in lives saved, but in meters gained. A Kriegsman wakes before dawn, though, on most worlds, the sun is hidden by smoke. They check their lasgun, clean their respirator, and whisper a short vow: Emperor, make me worthy of death. Meals are minimal nutrient paste and reseek water. There is no music, no laughter. Orders are followed without question, and punishment is swift but rare. There is nothing left to fear for those who already welcome death. The commissars assigned to Krieg regiments rarely need to enforce morale. A Kriegsman who fails his duty will often execute himself, leaving behind a single phrase scrawled in the dirt: forgive me. Their chaplains speak softly, not of victory, but of endurance. To live is to serve. To die is to be forgiven. The Death Korps favor heavy armor and artillery. Their basilisks, Medusa, and Earthshaker cannons thunder for days before an advance. Infantry follow in ranks, shrouded in gas masks and greatcoats, their bayonets fixed as they charge through poison clouds. Casualties are expected to be catastrophic. Entire regiments are wiped out and replaced without ceremony. To Krieg, this is not tragedy, it is duty fulfilled. Their most infamous campaign was the Siege of Vrax, a war that lasted 17 years. Vrax was a fortress world turned heretical by a rogue cardinal. The Death Korps were sent to reclaim it, and they did, trench by trench, corpse by corpse. The cost: millions of dead. The reward: redemption and silence. The Imperium called it victory. To the men of Krieg, life is a burden carried until absolution. They do not dream of returning home. There is no home to return to. Their world remains a wasteland, a reminder that humanity's greatest enemy is itself. Within the Imperium, opinions are divided. To some, the Death Korps are the perfect soldiers, loyal beyond reason. To others, they are a symptom of a sick empire, proof that even devotion can become madness. Off-world Medicaid teams describe Kriegsmen as emotionally inert. Their pain response is dulled, their empathy nearly extinguished. Yet beneath the mask lies something tragically human, a desperate desire to make their ancestors proud, to earn the Emperor's smile, even if it means dying unseen in the mud. In the 41st millennium, the Death Korps fight on 1,000 fronts, against Orks, Tyranids, heretics, and the warpspawn of chaos. They rarely speak. They never surrender. Each regiment is a living monument to the sin of their ancestors. They do not seek medals or honors, only the chance to die usefully. There are no names recorded in their halls of memory, only numbers and campaigns. Yet, in the quiet archives of the Imperial Guard, the scribes speak of moments when a single Kriegsman stood against impossible odds, firing his lasgun until the charge pack burned out, and then fixing his bayonet to charge into eternity. For them, that is not legend. In the end, the Death Korps of Krieg will fade as all things do. Their bodies will crumble into dust. Their names will never be known, but their creed will endure, whispered by new generations of soldiers who fight beneath the same dying sun. We are the Death Korps of Krieg. We serve the Emperor unto death, and in death we find peace. The Imperium calls them madmen. Their enemies call them monsters. But in truth, they are something simpler. Men and women who turned guilt into faith and despair into duty. And so long as humanity endures, their ghosts will march beside it, silent, unbroken. The Death Korps of Krieg are not a single army. They are a collective of countless regiments, each raised, trained, and dispatched from the catacombs of their ruined home world. Their structure mirrors that of the wider Astra Mil, yet with distinct, obsessive precision. Every regiment is self-contained. It possesses its own armor, artillery, engineers, and logistics corps. They are bred for autonomy, to fight for decades without resupply or reinforcement. Each regiment bears a number burned into its identity. The 88th Siege Army, the 143rd Assault Regiment, the 261st Heavy Artillery Corps. Thousands of numbers for thousands of wars. These numbers are not ceremonial. They are the closest thing Krieg has to family names. To serve in the 143rd is to inherit the legacy of every soul who died under its banner. To fall in battle is to add your ashes to that lineage. There are no homecomings, no medals, no victory parades. When a regiment is destroyed, its number is simply reassigned to new troops born beneath the planet's surface. The bloodline is endless, though the flesh is not. Recruitment is not voluntary. On Krieg, every citizen is property of the Departmental Munitorum. Children are screened for genetic defects before birth. Those deemed unfit are quietly recycled into industrial biomass, the first sacrifice in a life of duty. At age 6, the viable are placed in military creches. By 10, they have memorized the Catechism of Purity, the Litany of Obedience, and the Doctrine of Attrition. By 14, they are trained with live ammunition. By 16, they march in formation through simulated bombardments while instructors detonate live shells around them. Those who panic or hesitate do not graduate. They do not need to. Their bodies feed the furnaces that power the next generation's training camps. When a Kriegsman leaves for his first campaign, he does not say farewell. There is no family to return to, and no expectation of survival. His final oath is written in blood across a strip of parchment. I was born to serve. I die to cleanse. That parchment is nailed to his chest beneath his uniform, a reminder of what he is. Krieg's warfare is not defined by brilliance or maneuver, but by endurance. They do not seek swift victories. They seek inevitable ones. The Death Korps excel at siege warfare, the most punishing, least glamorous form of battle in the Imperium. They are trained to attack fortified positions, grind them into rubble, and advance meter by meter through wasteland. Artillery preparation can last for weeks before a single infantryman moves forward. When the bombardment finally ceases, the Kriegsmen emerge from the trenches like ghosts, their respirators hissing softly. They advance through fire and smoke, stepping over corpses that were once comrades, never pausing to grieve. The enemy sees madness. Krieg calls it faith. A Krieg siege army consumes resources at a terrifying rate. 5 million artillery shells per week, 20,000 replacement respirators per day. Tens of thousands of new conscripts shipped from orbit every month. But they waste nothing. Fallen soldiers are stripped of gear within minutes. Rations are distributed from the dead to the living. Even ammunition casings are collected, resmelted, and recast by field forges. They are the perfect expression of the Imperium's philosophy. Everything and everyone is expendable in service to the throne. If there is one campaign that defines the Death Korps of Krieg, it is the siege of Vrax. It remains the longest, most infamous siege in Imperial history. 17 years of relentless warfare fought over a single fortress world. Vrax was once an armory world, a warehouse of munitions for the segmentum of its ruler, Cardinal Zaffin, turned from the Emperor and declared independence. Billions of shells, tanks, and weapons stockpiled on the planet were suddenly lost to the Imperium. Zaphon raised his own army of renegades and heretics, and soon the Chaos Powers answered his call. Vrax became a fortress of madness, and the Death Korps were chosen to cleanse it. In 813 M41, the 88th Siege Army arrived in orbit. Its commanders issued a single order: commence bombardment. For 3 months, the planet burned. Orbit to surface shells, the size of buildings, slammed into the crust, turning plains into oceans of mud. When the Kriegsmen landed, the sky was black with dust. Trenches stretched for hundreds of kilometers. Each advance gained no more than a few hundred meters. The casualty rate averaged 70% per regiment per campaign season. Still, they pressed forward. By the 10th year of war, the 88th Siege Army was replaced by the 143rd and 261st. The bodies of fallen Kriegsmen had become part of the landscape, mummified in mud and ash. Their bones reinforced the trench walls. The Cardinal was finally slain in the 17th year, and Vrax fell silent. But victory came at a cost no one could measure. Over 15 million Kriegsmen were dead, and the planet was deemed uninhabitable. The Administratum recorded the campaign as a complete success. Though Vrax is their most famous war, it is far from their only one. The Death Korps have fought on countless worlds, often called in when conventional Imperial forces fail.